Hey guys, it's been a long day, but it's been amazing here at the Amputee Coalition National Conference 2023 in Orlando. And as always, I got my amazing buddy here, Reggie
What's
Showers.
up, everybody? We miss you.
Yeah, we are hanging at the College Park booth. We've had a chance to meet so many of you already who have come to this conference. This is wonderful. For those of you who are at home, wish you could be here, but that's why we're doing this, so that you guys can get a little piece of the action here. So what we're going to be talking about right now is going to be on hip tightness. And a couple of weeks ago, I kind of briefly touched upon it, but this time I have a very handsome model who's going to be helping teach all the exercises to it, right? So when we talk about hip tightness, I'm usually referring to two kinds of hip tightness, the most common problems: hip flexor tightness and hip abductor tightness, right? So for hip flexor, meaning it's the muscles that make your knee move up towards you, right? It's a big muscle that's located on the inner part of your hip bone, right? And it's called the iliopsoas. Actually, two muscles combined into one. It's a very big fan-shaped muscle. It's about the size of your hand, and it fans out like your hand, but it's a very short muscle, right? It's not a very long muscle, so it gets tight very easily, especially with my AKs, right? So whenever you have hip flexor tightness, it's usually because of the iliopsoas muscle, all right? So then on your hip abductor tightness, it's when those abductors get tight. And those are the glute muscles that you hear me talking about, the glute medius and the glute minimus muscle. And a lot of people don't realize that they have that kind of tightness, right? So the question is why do these muscles get tight and happen, okay? Immediately after your amputation surgery, right? Hopefully you had a physical therapist poking their head in the room and adjusting how you were positioned in the bed. The reason they were doing this was to help prevent some of this tightness from settling in. So for many of you, they would tell you, hey, we can't put a pillow underneath your residual limb, and that's to prevent the hip flexion tightness. Now, if you had a really good physical therapist, right, they were also making sure that your residual limb was not rolling out to the side, right? Because that's what creates the hip abductor tightness, right? So hopefully you have that physical therapist positioning your residual limb so that it was nice and straight in the bed. Yeah?
Okay.
Do you remember that from? I mean, I know your surgeries were quite a while, long time ago. Okay. So the question is what happens if you have hip flexor or hip abductor tightness? Why do we care? Okay. The big reason is it affects your gait and how you walk. Okay. How many of you have low back pain? Right? A lot of times when I start investigating low back pain, one of the culprits is having a tight iliopsoas muscle, tight hip flexor muscle. And the reason for that is it connects into your spine, right? So that's why many of you might have back pain. A lot of you might be walking with a little bit of a hunch over to your gait patterns, right? Again, tight hip flexor muscles. Or you're not able to pull your leg back far enough when you're walking. All of these things that come into play when you're walking and you don't realize where it's coming from. Yeah? So how many of you guys have heard about the Thomas test? That's something, no?
I never heard about it.
Well, I know your process has done this on you. So the Thomas test is a really quick and easy way to determine if you have hip flexor tightness. And I'm going to move myself for a moment and let Reggie lie down, and we're going to show you how to do that Thomas test right now. Right. Lay down at the back. All right. Actually, we've got a pretty good view of everything going on. I'm going to kneel down here. All right, so for the hip flexor, to test for hip flexor tightness, okay, I'm going to have Reggie bend up this leg and just rest his foot here. Okay, so we're going to be testing his left leg, this one right here. And what he's going to do is he's going to bring this leg up, all the way, okay, bring it back down. Okay, now I want you to bring this leg up and bring it to your chest, hold it there to your chest, okay? And we're just letting gravity relax this leg here. Now, I don't think you can see from the camera. Okay. Reggie's leg is not completely flat on the mat, right? He's got a little airspace between here. So that's indicating he's got a little bit of tightness right there in that hip flexor. And if I were to push down just a little bit, I'm getting a little bit of resistance. Reggie might say, ow, that's kind of being tight a little bit. Not sure you're okay?
That's okay.
All right. So sometimes, let me see if I can put this back in the right place. Okay. When we have someone who has extreme hip flexor tightness, right, their leg may not rest down at all. So it might actually be lifted up off the table. Okay. So that's a very popular test that prosthetists and physical therapists will do to determine how much hip flexor tightness there is, right? Now we get to the fun part where we get to decide how to fix it, right? So for those of you who are able to tolerate being on your belly, that's one of my favorite ways to stretch out hip flexor tightness. So I'm gonna have Reggie flip onto the belly. That's okay. Okay, so for those of you who are able to tolerate this, and you can just relax your arms by your side just like this, okay? Now, what I want with this is I want the hip flexor stretching right at the front part of the hip. What I don't want is to have stress on the lower back. So if I see somebody who's not comfortable, I'll put a towel roll or maybe a very flat pillow right underneath the stomach to take the slack off the back, okay? And usually just lying in this position is enough to start stretching someone's hip flexors. Now, once they start getting good and they want an extra stretch, I'll have them come up onto their elbows, okay? And then just let gravity settle them into that position. Again, if they're starting to feel a lot of back pain in doing this, then that means we're not stretching the right thing and we need to find an alternative way of stretching. How are you doing?
Good.
You doing good? Are you feeling a stretch?
A little bit.
A little bit? Where are you feeling it? Lower back? Okay, so in your case, I think the other one is going to be better for you. Go ahead and switch over to your back.
Okay.
So if you are someone who's feeling a lot of stress on your lower back when you're doing that stretching, you need an alternative. This is one of my favorite ones. And this is one that my patients like because I usually bring out the hot pack, but I didn't bring it out this time, I'm sorry. So with this one, Reggie's gonna scoot over to the edge without falling off. Please, it's a lot of paperwork, and he's already putting himself into that stretch. He's gonna bend up this knee, right there. And he's already doing it. He's letting his leg drop down off the end of the table. And with doing that, gravity is basically doing the stretch right there. And actually, if you want to scooch your bum just a bit more, there you go. Until you start feeling the stretch right here in the front part. Okay? And that's it. That's the nice thing about some of these stretches, guys. You don't have to really put yourself into incredibly awkward positions, right? And usually with my patients, if I'm feeling particularly nice that day in the clinic, I'll put a hot pack on the front part of their hip just to kind of relax that area more. A lot of my patients also like to put their prosthesis on because it allows the gravity to take effect even more.
So, Costa, let me ask you a question. If I were to have a higher elevated bench that I'm lying on, wouldn't that stretch that even more because my leg would be a little lower hanging off?
Yes and no, because then if you're elevating yourself, you're shortening that muscle.
Oh, okay.
Right? So you actually, this is the area right here in the front part of your hip. That's where you want to feel that stretch right there.
Okay.
And it's again, it's a very short muscle to really target that tendon. You got to be in just the right position.
Okay.
So guys, sometimes I have to scooch my patients back and forth until they tell me that they're feeling the stretch in the right position. Okay? Sounds good? All right, so this was all to stretch your hip flexors. Now let's talk about my favorite stretch for hip abductors. So remember I said those are the glute muscles located in your bum. Okay, so for this one, we're gonna bring your leg up here. All right, and we're going to go ahead and straighten this leg out. All right, so for this one, we're gonna be stretching out Reggie's left side of the abductors, okay? And we're gonna bend the knee a little bit, bring it up, and then with your opposite hand, bring it across here, and bring it over, okay? Now, what is a little hard to see is making sure that your hip stays down, okay? Because if you're rotating your hip over with you, then you're stretching your lower back. So we're gonna make sure the hip stays there, and then Reggie can pull to his comfort. And pull there, are you feeling the stretch? Where are you feeling it? Right in the bum area. All right, so you know you're hitting the right place. And this stretch, honestly, it feels really good. Now, once you feel that relax, you can also take it and make it into a lower back stretch. Just be really gentle with yourself. So for me, this is one of my favorite exercises after a long day stretches. I start by stretching my hip abductors, and then as I relax into it, I let my lower back get a nice little stretch as well. Those of you who are experiencing sciatic pain, this is one of my favorite go-to stretches right there.
The last 6 months I've been experiencing sciatica.
Yes.
And I wasn't doing any exercises like this. This would have been so beneficial.
Yeah. So just the quick and dirty on sciatic pain, guys. Your sciatic nerve is a really big, fat, juicy nerve that sits right deep in your bum.
So
Covered by a little muscle. So when that tiny little muscle gets spastic and it clamps down on your sciatic nerve, you see fireworks, right? So this is a nice exercise that also targets that area right there. Yeah, I could have, you know. It's over $50. All right, guys, so I'm going to go ahead and let to put that leg down. And then another one, and hopefully you'll see if we can get the camera angle to do this right. If you're standing, there's actually a way to kind of stretch your hip abductors while you're in standing. So for the sake of the demonstration, I'm going to say I'm stretching out my right side. And what you do is you cross over your foot, if you're able to do this, and usually you do this kind of leaning up on a wall, and then you stretch on it over. So that's just kind of a quick and dirty way to kind of stretch out that muscle if you're in standing and you don't have the luxury of lying down in the middle of your day, like we do here.
Right.
Coalition conference. All right, guys, let me just check some of these comments real quick because I haven't had a chance to. Make sure you guys don't have any questions for me. Hey, Steven. All right, guys. So that is our talk on hip tightness. Guys, tomorrow, Friday at 12:30 p.m., we are going to be interviewing Wafa Lavelle. And she was on my show a couple of years ago. A beautiful story, a beautiful human being, and she is, much like Reggie, a wealth of knowledge. She's been an amputee for over 40 years.
Yep, that's what she said.
Right? So she has been there, done that, gotten the t-shirt for it. She has so much good advice, especially when it comes to communicating with your prosthetist and advocating for yourself. So guys, 12:30 Eastern time tomorrow on the Coastal Talks Facebook page and YouTube channel. Those of you who have not come by the College Park booth, I am waiting to meet you. We are waiting to help you out. So please come and join us.
Awesome.
Good?
Thank you,
Did we
Kosi.
cover everything?
I think we got it.
All right, I'm going to go get coffee. You want some coffee?
I don't drink coffee.
What?
I eat coffee ice cream.
I don't know if we can be friends. I don't know.
I'll have a cup of coffee.
Okay, all right. I'm going to go convince this guy to have some coffee. All right, guys, we'll see you guys tomorrow.
See you.
Bye.